The deep blackness of space stretched out before the starship frontier as it glided through the outer reaches of charted territory. Commander Eric Walsh sat in his command chair, watching the stars streak by on the main view screen. His mission was simple: explore, document, and make peaceful contact if possible. After 3 months in deep space, the crew was eager for discovery. "Commander, I'm picking up an unusual signal," said Communications Officer Peter Lee, his fingers dancing across his console. "It doesn't match any known patterns in our database." Walsh straightened in his chair. "Origin. Sector 7, approximately 2 light hours from our position." Dr. Olivia Martinez, the ship's science officer, was already analyzing the data. Her dark eyes narrowed as she studied the readings. "It appears to be artificial, sir. Definitely not a natural phenomenon." "Alter course, Mr. Grant," Walsh ordered the helmsman. "Let's go see what we found." The Frontier changed direction smoothly, its engines humming as it accelerated toward the mystery. The bridge crew worked efficiently, each person focused on their tasks. This was what they had trained for: first contact with something new. 6 hours later, they saw it. A ship unlike any human vessel hung in space before them. Its sleek design reminded Walsh of Earth's ocean predators, all smooth lines and dangerous curves. The alien ship was nearly twice the size of the Frontier, its hull a deep purple-black that seemed to absorb the light around it. "No response to standard greeting protocols," Lee reported. "Keep trying all frequencies," Walsh said. "Dr. Martinez, what can you tell me?" Olivia didn't look up from her scanner. "The hull material is unlike anything in our records. I'm detecting life signs aboard. Definitely not human. Their power signature suggests technology significantly more advanced than ours." A sudden beep from Lee's console interrupted her analysis. "Sir, they're responding. Text only, but our translation software is processing it." Words appeared on the main screen. "Identify yourselves and your purpose." Walsh nodded to Lee, who opened a channel. "This is Commander Eric Walsh of the Earth exploration vessel Frontier. We are on a peaceful mission of discovery. We welcome the opportunity for cultural exchange with new civilizations." Minutes passed in tense silence before the alien ship responded again. This time, the message included visual data. The screen filled with the image of a tall reptilian being. Its scales shimmered with iridescent colors under the lights of what appeared to be a command center. Yellow eyes with vertical pupils studied them with clear intelligence. The creature stood nearly 7 feet tall, with a powerful build and clawed hands resting on what looked like a ceremonial weapon. "I am Supreme Hunter Vorax of the Karax Dominion," the alien said, its mouth moving in perfect sync with the translated words. "You have entered our patrol territory, humans." Walsh noticed how the translator emphasized the word humans, almost like someone might say rabbits or deer. "We apologize for any territorial intrusion," Walsh replied. "We are explorers, not conquerors. We seek only knowledge and peaceful relations." The alien's mouth curled in what might have been a smile, revealing rows of sharp teeth. "The Karax welcome peaceful visitors. Perhaps you would accept our invitation to meet face to face. We have much to share with your kind." Something in the way Vorax said "your kind" made Walsh uneasy, but first contact protocol was clear. "We would be honored." "Excellent," Vorax said. "We will send docking instructions. Prepare yourselves for a cultural exchange." After the communication ended, Walsh turned to his first officer, Ben Mitchell. "Thoughts?" "They seem welcoming enough," Mitchell said, "but those teeth weren't made for eating plants." Dr. Martinez nodded. "Their entire physical structure suggests an apex predator evolutionary path. The Karax clearly evolved as hunters." "Well," Walsh said with a small smile, "so did we in our own way. Prepare a delegation. Let's show our new friends what humans are made of." None of them noticed the silent message that flashed briefly on Vorax's screen before it went dark. "Potential prey species identified. Commencing assessment." 3 days later, Commander Walsh led a small delegation aboard the Karax vessel. He had selected his team carefully. Security Chief Alan Cooper, a former Marine with quick reflexes and a calm demeanor, Dr. Samantha Wells, their top xenobiologist, and Daniel Garcia, whose gift for languages had already helped improve their translation software. They wore their dress uniforms and carried only scientific equipment, following first contact protocols. The Karax shuttle that brought them over was elegant and swift. Its interior reminded Dr. Wells of a shark's stomach, all smooth curves in dark colors. The Karax pilot said nothing during the journey, but they felt his eyes on them, studying their movements. Remember, Walsh told his team quietly, we represent all of humanity. Be respectful, but stay alert. When they docked with the main Karax ship, they were met by an honor guard of warriors, each standing a head taller than Cooper, who was 6 feet himself. The aliens moved with liquid grace despite their size. Supreme Hunter Vorax greeted them with a formal bow. Welcome to the heart of the hunt, he said, extending a clawed hand toward Walsh. Few species ever receive this honor. The interior of the Karax ship was a marvel of technology and art combined. As they walked through curved hallways, Dr. Wells noticed every piece of art showed hunting scenes. Karax warriors chasing or killing various alien creatures. The lighting pulsed subtly, mimicking what might be a heartbeat. Your vessel is beautiful, Walsh said diplomatically. Beauty and function must be one, Vorax replied, just as the perfect predator is both deadly and magnificent. They were led to a large chamber where several high-ranking Karax waited. The walls displayed weapons of various designs, and at the center was a table with foods arranged for what appeared to be a welcome feast. Garcia noticed how the Karax watched them with intense interest as they entered. Please, enjoy our hospitality, Vorax said, gesturing to the table. We have researched what your species can safely consume. The food was mostly fruits and vegetables, arranged in artistic patterns. Dr. Wells scanned them discreetly with her equipment and nodded to Walsh. They were safe to eat. As they sampled the offerings, the Karax asked questions about Earth, human physiology, and their technology. Your species has achieved much despite your physical limitations, said a female Karax named Silex, who had been introduced as their lead biologist. Her scales shimmered with blue highlights as she moved. We compensate in other ways, Cooper said carefully. Indeed, Vorax agreed. Adaptation takes many forms. Would you honor us by demonstrating your physical capabilities? A friendly competition, perhaps? Walsh exchanged glances with his team. This felt like a test. What sort of competition? Simple tests of strength, speed, and problem-solving, Vorax explained. We do this with all new species we encounter. It helps us understand each other better. Over the next few hours, the human delegation participated in various challenges. As expected, they couldn't match the Karax in raw strength or speed. Cooper, the strongest among them, was easily outmatched by even the smallest Karax warrior. But in tests of endurance and problem-solving, the humans performed surprisingly well. During a break, Garcia pulled Walsh aside. Commander, they're studying us like specimens. Every test is being recorded and analyzed. I noticed, Walsh replied quietly. Dr. Wells. The xenobiologist nodded. Classic predator behavior. They're assessing whether we're threat, prey, or competitor. Let's give them something to think about, Walsh decided. Cooper, when we return, I want you to deliberately underperform in the physical tests but excel at the strategy games. Psychological warfare. Sir, Cooper asked with a slight smile. Exactly. Let's not show all our cards just yet. When they returned to the testing area, Vorax was waiting with several senior Karax. We have prepared our most honored tradition for tonight, he announced. A great feast to celebrate new connections between our species. What none of the humans noticed was the silent message passing between the Karax leaders, or the subtle vials of clear liquid being prepared in the ship's laboratory. The label in Karax script, translated roughly as sedative, for prey transport. The great feast hall of the Karax ship glowed with a soft purple light. Long tables made of polished bone-like material stretched across the room. Commander Walsh and his team sat at the main table with Supreme Hunter Vorax and other high-ranking Karax. Strange music played from hidden speakers, reminding Walsh of whale songs mixed with drum beats. "This wine is a special blend," Vorax said, pouring a blue liquid into crystal glasses. "It celebrates successful hunts and new discoveries." Dr. Wells discreetly scanned the drink with her small device. It showed no immediate dangers, but something about the eager way the Karax watched them made her uneasy. She caught Garcia's eye and tapped her glass twice, their silent signal for caution. "To new friendships between our species," Vorax raised his glass. The humans followed, but only pretended to drink. The feast continued with exotic foods and more toasts. The Karax told stories of great hunts across the galaxy. Each tale ended the same way, with the Karax emerging as the superior predator. Walsh noticed how they kept refilling the humans' glasses, even when they were still full. "You appear tired, Commander," Silex, the Karax biologist, said with concern that didn't reach her yellow eyes. "The translation process can be mentally draining for new species." Walsh did feel strangely heavy. The room seemed to spin slightly. He looked at his team and saw Cooper fighting to keep his eyes open. Garcia was slumped in his chair, and Dr. Wells was blinking rapidly, trying to stay alert. "What did you?" Walsh tried to stand but collapsed back into his seat. His tongue felt thick in his mouth. Vorax stood over him, no longer hiding his predatory smile. "Rest now, human. When you wake, the real cultural exchange will begin." Darkness took Walsh, and when he opened his eyes again, he was lying on dirt and grass. The air felt hot and humid on his skin. Above him, a red-orange sky stretched between tall trees. This was definitely not the Karax ship. Walsh sat up with a groan. His head pounded, and his uniform was gone, replaced by simple brown clothing made of rough fabric. A small pack lay beside him. Inside he found basic tools: a knife with a stone blade, a water container, and what looked like dried meat. "Cooper? Wells? Garcia?" he called out, but only strange bird-like cries answered him. He climbed to his feet and studied his surroundings. The vegetation resembled Earth's prehistoric forests, with massive ferns and towering trees. A small stream ran nearby. Walsh knelt to examine the water when a voice boomed from above. "Welcome to the Great Hunt, Commander Walsh." Walsh looked up but saw only sky through the trees. The voice belonged to Vorax, coming from hidden speakers. "What is this place?" Walsh demanded. "Where is my team?" "This is our most honored tradition," Vorax explained, his voice echoing through the forest. "A hunting preserve designed to simulate your planet's ancient environment. Your team members are here too, each in their own starting zone." Walsh gripped the stone knife tightly. "You expect us to be your prey." Vorax's laugh rumbled through the trees. "Precisely. But we are not without honor. Survive 3 cycles, and you will earn both your freedom and our respect. Few species have ever accomplished this. And if we refuse to play your game, then you will die where you stand," Vorax said simply. "The preserve is filled with challenges, both natural and Karax hunters. But I am curious to see how you perform. Your species has unusual qualities." A distant roar echoed through the forest, sending flocks of creatures into the air. "The hunt begins now," Vorax announced. "Run, hide, fight. Do whatever you must. Prove your species worthy of respect rather than consumption." The communication cut off, leaving Walsh alone in the alien forest. He slipped the knife into his belt and secured the pack across his shoulder. First priority: find water, then his team. The Karax had made a critical mistake. They thought humans were prey animals who would panic and flee. They were about to learn that humans had once been apex predators on their own world, not through claws or fangs, but through something far more dangerous: intelligence, cooperation, and sheer stubborn will to survive. Dr. Samantha Wells crouched by a cluster of bright purple plants, carefully examining their structure. Instead of panicking when she woke alone in this alien environment, she had immediately begun cataloging the local flora. Her scientific mind remained her greatest weapon. Toxin-producing glands, she murmured, gently touching the plant's stem. Similar to Earth's poison ivy, but much more potent. She collected several leaves using a strip of fabric torn from her pack. The Karax had given her the same basic supplies as Walsh: water container, dried food, and a stone knife. But they didn't understand that to a xenobiologist, the environment itself was a resource. A rustling sound made her freeze. 20 yards away, a Karax hunter moved through the underbrush, sniffing the air. His scales were painted with camouflage patterns, and he carried what looked like a spear. Wells remained perfectly still, letting the dense foliage hide her. The hunter paused, turning his head slowly. For a moment, Wells thought he had spotted her. Then a small animal darted across the clearing, and the hunter's attention snapped toward it. He moved away, following the creature. Wells waited 5 more minutes before moving. She needed to find the others. According to her training, the best strategy was to locate high ground and look for signs of human activity. She gathered more plant samples as she traveled, building her arsenal of natural toxins. Miles away, Security Chief Alan Cooper had already fashioned a bow from flexible branches and plant fibers. His time in military survival training was proving invaluable. He had set multiple traps around his small camp beside a stream, not to catch food, but to warn of approaching hunters. Cooper paused in his work when one of his alarm systems triggered, a line of small stones he had balanced on a fallen log. Something was coming. He silently moved into position, bow ready. A familiar figure emerged from the trees, Daniel Garcia, looking tired but unharmed. "Cooper," Garcia whispered, "don't shoot." Cooper lowered his weapon. "How did you find me?" Garcia pointed to a series of small marks carved into tree trunks. "I recognize your old Marine unit symbol. Smart way to leave a trail for friendlies." The two men compared notes on their situations. Garcia had spent hours studying the preserve's structure and discovered something interesting. "The whole place is artificial," he explained. "There are maintenance hatches hidden in the rock formations. And listen," he pointed upward. "That hum isn't natural. This whole place is powered by something. So there's infrastructure we can exploit," Cooper said thoughtfully. "Now we need to find Walsh and Wells." In another section of the preserve, Commander Walsh had been busy creating a map of his surroundings. He'd climbed a tall tree and spotted what looked like a control tower at the center of the dome. That had to be where the Karax monitored the hunt. As he moved toward it, he heard something that made him smile. A bird call that was distinctly non-alien. It was a perfect whistle of shave and a haircut. An old Earth tune. Someone from his team was nearby, using their agreed-upon signal. Walsh responded with the answering notes and waited. Minutes later, Dr. Wells appeared from behind a large fern. "Commander," she said with relief, "I've been searching for hours. Any sign of the others?" "No, but I've been gathering these." She showed him her collection of toxic plants. The purple ones cause extreme skin irritation. The red ones can induce temporary blindness if crushed and exposed to air. Walsh nodded appreciatively. "Good work. We're not just running and hiding like they expect." From a viewing chamber above the preserve, Supreme Hunter Vorex and his fellow Karax watched with growing confusion. The humans weren't behaving like prey species. Instead of scattering in panic, they were methodically exploring, gathering resources, and apparently searching for each other. "Interesting," Silex said, studying her monitors. "They adapt quickly." Vorex frowned. "Send in the junior hunters. Let's see how they handle direct confrontation." What the Karax couldn't see was that their perfect hunting ground was slowly becoming a perfect trap, not for the humans, but for the hunters themselves. The second day in the hunting preserve began with a blood-red sunrise. Dr. Wells and Commander Walsh had spent the night creating weapons from Dr. Wells' toxic plant collection. They coated stone-tipped spears with the purple plant sap and filled small pouches with crushed red leaves. Cooper and Garcia are still out there somewhere, Walsh said, testing the balance of his spear. We need to find them before the Karax do. A distant roar echoed through the trees, closer than the previous day's sounds. They're escalating the hunt, Wells observed. We should keep moving. They traveled cautiously through the dense forest, using signs only humans would recognize to mark their path. Old Boy Scout trail markers, mathematical symbols scratched into tree bark, a communication system the Karax wouldn't understand. Near a small waterfall, Walsh spotted a series of stones arranged in an arrow shape pointing to a narrow cave entrance. It was exactly how Cooper had been trained to signal safe shelter locations. Inside the cave, they found Cooper and Garcia working on what looked like a crude radio. "Commander," Garcia said with relief, "we salvaged parts from one of the junior hunters." Cooper nodded toward a pile of equipment in the corner. "They came after us last night. 3 of them. They weren't expecting us to fight back." "You captured a hunter?" Wells asked, examining the equipment. "Not exactly," Cooper said grimly. "But we got his gear. Garcia thinks he can use it to tap into their communication system." Walsh inspected their work. "Good job. What else have you learned?" Garcia pointed to a rough map he'd scratched onto a flat stone. "The preserve is divided into 6 sectors. We're here, in Sector 3. The control center is at the middle. Each sector has maintenance tunnels that lead to the central hub." "And the hunters?" Walsh asked. "They hunt in pairs or alone," Cooper explained. "They're strong and fast, but they don't coordinate well with each other. Classic apex predator behavior. They're not used to cooperative hunting." Wells smiled. "Unlike humans, we evolved as pack hunters." Walsh studied the map. "Then we use that against them." "Garcia, how close are you to accessing their communications?" "I need one more component, a power source from their equipment. If we can lure another hunter." "No need to lure them," Cooper interrupted, pointing to a small alarm system he'd set up near the cave entrance. 2 heat signatures approaching from the north. "Hunters." Walsh quickly outlined a plan. They positioned themselves using the natural features of the cave, Wells hidden above the entrance, Walsh and Cooper on either side, and Garcia deeper inside with the equipment. When the first hunter entered, moving with predatory caution, he failed to look up. A critical mistake. Wells dropped her pouch of crushed red leaves directly onto his face. The Karax hunter roared in pain, clawing at his eyes. Before his companion could react, Cooper and Walsh attacked from both sides with their toxic-tipped spears. The second hunter was more prepared. He swung his weapon in a wide arc, forcing the humans back. His superior strength and speed made him deadly in close combat, but the Karax hadn't counted on human ingenuity. From the back of the cave, Garcia triggered a trap they had set, a counterweight system that brought a net of vines crashing down on the hunter. As the Karax struggled against the entangling plants, Cooper moved in with his spear. Minutes later, the humans had 2 unconscious Karax hunters and a wealth of new equipment. "Get what you need," Walsh told Garcia. "We move in 1 hour." In the control center, Supreme Hunter Vorex stared at the silent monitors in disbelief. 2 more hunters had disappeared, their vital signs still registered, but their cameras had gone dark. "What is happening?" he demanded. "How are these soft creatures defeating our hunters?" Silex studied the data scrolling across her screen. "They're working together in ways we didn't anticipate. Their coordination is remarkable." Vorex slammed his fist on the control panel. "Send in the elite hunters, all of them. I want these humans found and subdued. Now." What he didn't realize was that his command transmission had been intercepted. In the cave, Garcia smiled as the Karax words translated across his makeshift display. "We've got them," he told the others, "and they have no idea." The captured Karax hunter glared at Walsh with hatred in his yellow eyes. The humans had bound him securely with vines reinforced with strips of material from their packs. His hunting partner remained unconscious, affected by the toxin from Wells' plants. "Why do you hunt sentient beings?" Walsh asked, keeping a safe distance. The hunter made a sound like a hiss. "It is our way. The strong hunt. The weak are hunted. This is the natural order." Wells studied their captive with scientific interest. "But you've developed advanced technology, formed societies. Surely you've evolved beyond simple predator-prey relationships." "You sound like the collective species from the Andromeda sector," the hunter said with disgust. "They too believed cooperation made them strong. Their bones now decorate our trophy halls." Cooper exchanged looks with Walsh. "They've done this to other civilizations." Garcia was busy with the equipment they'd salvage. "Commander, I've mapped the maintenance tunnels. There's a path to the central control hub, but it's going to be heavily guarded now." Walsh nodded. "Then we don't go to the control hub. We target the systems that maintain this habitat." He turned to Wells. "You said the whole environment is artificial, right?" "Yes. Temperature, atmosphere, gravity, all controlled. If we disrupt those systems, then the hunters lose their perfect hunting ground," Cooper finished. The Karax prisoner laughed, a cold sound that reminded Walsh of stones sliding together. "You cannot escape. The elite hunters have your scent now. They never fail." Walsh smiled. They've never hunted humans before. While Cooper and Wells prepared for their next move, Walsh questioned the prisoner further, learning about Karax society. As he suspected, they were solitary hunters who only came together for mating and ceremonial events. Their social structures were rigid and hierarchical, with minimal cooperation beyond hunting packs. "This is valuable," Walsh told his team after the interrogation. "Their entire civilization is built on individual strength and dominance. They don't understand our kind of teamwork." Garcia looked up from his makeshift control panel. "I've accessed their environmental systems. I can create disruptions in specific sectors, but it will alert them to our interference." "Good," Walsh said. "That's exactly what we want. Cooper, how are our weapons?" Cooper had been improving their arsenal using parts from the Karax equipment. "Better than stone knives, but we're still outmatched in direct combat." "We won't fight them directly," Walsh explained. "Here's the plan." On the frontier, now 48 hours without contact from the away team, Acting Commander Lisa Morgan had assembled a rescue mission. Their long-range scanners had detected the massive Karax vessel, still in the same position where Walsh and his team had docked. "No response to our hails," reported the communications officer. Morgan's face was grim. "Prepare a boarding party. Full tactical gear." Back in the hunting preserve, Walsh's plan was in motion. Garcia had programmed the environmental controls to create a cascading series of failures. The first sector experienced a sudden temperature drop, driving all life forms toward the adjacent sectors. Then gravity fluctuations began in Sector 2, causing confusion among the hunting parties. "They're responding exactly as predicted," Garcia said, watching the Karax communications. "All elite hunters are converging on Sectors 1 and 2. Wells had positioned herself near a maintenance hatch in Sector 3, applying her toxic plant mixture to the air filtration system. When activated, it would spread quickly through Sectors 4 and 5. Cooper and Walsh were moving stealthily toward the central power distribution node they had identified from the hunter's equipment. Silex reports emergency failures in multiple systems, Garcia reported through their communication link. Vorex is ordering all hunters to protect the central hub. Walsh nodded to Cooper as they approached their target. "Perfect. They think we're trying to escape, not shut down their entire preserve." In the control center, Supreme Hunter Vorex watched with growing alarm as system after system reported failures. The monitoring screens showed hunters converging on empty sectors, while alerts flashed across control panels. "Find them," he roared at his technical team. "How are they doing this?" Silex studied the pattern of failures with sudden realization. "They're not trying to break out," she said slowly. They're breaking the entire system. For the first time in his long hunting career, Supreme Hunter Vorax felt something unfamiliar, fear. These humans weren't behaving like prey. They were acting like something much more dangerous. The third day in the hunting preserve began with chaos. Temperature controls failed throughout the dome, creating pockets of freezing cold next to areas of scorching heat. Gravity fluctuated wildly, making movement difficult even for the Karax hunters. The air grew thin in some sectors while thick fog filled others. In the central power distribution node, Walsh and Cooper worked quickly to complete the final phase of their plan. Using parts from the hunters' equipment, they had built a device to overload the main power grid. 5 minutes until total system failure, Cooper reported, connecting the last wire. Walsh nodded. Garcia. Status. Through their makeshift communication system, Garcia's voice came through with static. Wells has released the toxin into the ventilation system. Sectors 4 and 5 are reporting hunter casualties. Not lethal, but they can't see or move well. And the control center. Vorax has ordered all remaining hunters to protect it. They know what we're doing now, but they can't stop it. Walsh smiled grimly. Rendezvous at the secondary location in 10 minutes. Be careful. As Walsh and Cooper exited the power node, they encountered 3 elite Karax hunters. These warriors were larger than the others, with dark green scales and weapons that hummed with energy. Surrender, prey, the lead hunter growled. Cooper raised his makeshift weapon. We're not prey. The hunters attacked with blinding speed. In normal circumstances, the humans would have been quickly overpowered, but the environmental disruptions affected the Karax more severely than the humans. The fluctuating gravity disoriented the hunters, making their movements jerky and unpredictable. Walsh and Cooper used tactics they had developed overnight, never staying still, using the environment as a weapon, and working in perfect coordination. When one hunter lunged at Walsh, Cooper struck from behind. When Cooper was cornered, Walsh created a distraction. The fight was brief but intense. One hunter went down from a blow to the head. Another stepped into a gravity pocket and was slammed to the ground. The third retreated after Walsh landed a strike with a toxin-coated weapon. We need to move, Walsh said, breathing hard. The system overload will start soon. Across the dome, Garcia and Wells had reached the emergency exit they had discovered in the maintenance tunnel maps. As predicted, it was unguarded. The Karax never expected their prey to find these technical areas. The door requires a Karax handprint, Garcia said, examining the control panel. Wells smiled and pulled out a section of flexible material. I made an impression from our unconscious hunter's hand. Crude, but it might work. She pressed the material against the scanner. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the panel glowed green and the door slid open. Let's hope Walsh and Cooper make it, Garcia said as they entered the emergency tunnel. In the control center, Supreme Hunter Vorax watched with growing horror as system after system went dark. The humans had somehow turned his perfect hunting ground against him. Evacuate all personnel, he ordered. This facility is compromised. Silex stared at him in shock. Supreme Hunter, no prey species has ever. They are not prey, Vorax snapped. That was our mistake. They are predators, like us, but different. They hunt with their minds. As the Karax rushed to evacuate, the main power grid overloaded. Emergency lights flashed throughout the facility. The dome's atmospheric systems went haywire, filling some areas with unbreathable gas while creating vacuum pockets in others. Walsh and Cooper reached the emergency exit just as the final systems failed. They found Wells and Garcia waiting in the tunnel that led to the Karax ship's docking bay. The Frontier will be looking for us, Walsh said. We need to find a way to signal them. As they emerged into the docking bay, they were surprised to find it in chaos. Karax were running to evacuation vessels, ignoring the humans completely. Alarms blared, and announcements in the Karax language echoed through the massive chamber. Look, Garcia pointed to a view screen showing the space around the Karax vessel. The Frontier had arrived. Weapons charge, with a boarding shuttle already approaching the Karax ship. Perfect timing, Walsh said with a smile.